Hey guys, today we're going to talk about predicting with linear models. Our objective is how do you make predictions using best fitting lines. All right. So the first thing we need to know, the biggest part of this topic is what a zero of a function is. So you see that's a term that is highlighted there, zero of a function. Well, they're telling us that y equals f of x. And it's an absolute, let me underline what I'm saying here. Y equals f of x is an x value for which when f of x equals 0. So in other words, when y equals 0. So when I say a zero of a function, I mean when y equals 0. So if you have y equals 2x plus 8, the zero of the function, I would plug in 0 for y and solve for x.
Attention please, this is the last call for any 8th grade students.
So then you would subtract 8, you would get negative 8 equaling 2x, divide by 2, and you would get x equaling that negative 4, because 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So the zero of this function right here that we just made up is negative 4. So what we got to think about here is when y is 0 and x is negative 4, right, on that coordinate plane, when y is 0 and x is negative 4, that's over here at negative 4. That point right there, what kind of point is that? That's your x-intercept. So it's not just the 0, right? When we ask for zeros, it's also the x-intercept. It's just another name. So the 0 of a function also means x-intercept, and that's what you're seeing here in the second sentence. Okay, get down anything you think is important, then go to the hit play again. All right, so I gave you my little tip here. It says when it says the 0, substitute 0 for y and find the x-intercept, which is just what we just did. So this is something I got straight from the textbook. You can take a screenshot of it if you'd like. And I showed you here, it's telling you 3 different ways. So if you have an equation, you'd plug in 0 for the y and get what your x value is. That would mean your solution. Hey, another term, solution is another word for 0, is another word for x-intercepts. So solution and x-intercept of the graph. So here, I'm looking at the same line, y equals 2x minus 4. What's my x-intercept? Magenta. It's right here. What's that value? It's 2. And we learn that through the algebra or maybe the graph. And lastly, maybe you have something like f of x equals 2x minus 4. And again, we talked about that. F of x is another way of saying y. So you just do the same thing. You plug in 0 for f of x, solve for it, and you would get x equals 2. And then we would say the 0 of this function is 2. Either way, always that we solve it always gives you that same value. Okay, example 1. Say we're finding the zeros of this function. Let's say this function is f of x equaling negative 0.5x plus 0.75. So again, finding the 0 of the function, I plug in 0 for my f of x value. So I have 0 equals negative 0.5x plus 0.75. Okay, now all we got to do is solve the equation. We subtract 0.75 from both sides, and I get negative 0.75 equaling negative 0.5x. Divide by negative 0.5. A negative divided by a negative is positive, so I know it's positive. And then I got to think 0.75 divided by 0.5. So in other words, you are splitting up 75 cents divided by 50 cents, right? 75 cents divided by 50 cents. So 75 cents divided by 50 cents, that's not going to give you a whole amount. So it's 3/2 or 1.5. and also 1.5. Not easy to use that pen. All right, so here's finding the zero of the function. What's the point? What did we do? We plugged in 0 for f of x. We solve for the equation just like we always used to, and we get our answer either is 3/2, or if you like decimals, 1.5. All right, try this problem on your own. Pause the video, find the zero of the function, hit play when you're done. So again, you're plugging in 0 for f of x, and you have 0 equaling negative x plus 10. So then I undo what's happening to the variable. I subtract 10. 0 minus 10 is negative 10. Negative 10 equaling negative x. Because I have a negative x, I want the other side, right? We want positive x, so you divide everything by negative 1, and that would mean, sorry, negative 10 divided by negative 1 is 10. Ignore that little dash mark there. And negative 1x divided by negative 1 is just x. How do I get rid of that? I'm not sure. So just ignore that. All right. So the answer, like you see behind, is positive 10. All right. And that there is the zeros of the function.